Welcome, fellow assassins. Huge update here. There's going to be a link down below, as always, in the description box if you want to read this shite on your own. So let's just get into it. Enough playing around. Look at the size of the update, depending on your platform, anywhere from 12.5 to nearly 18 gigabytes. Ostara Festival, we added in-game support for the Ostara Festival. It'll be available on March 18th all the way into April 8th, and it will feature a Bloomy Ravensthorpe, some unique side activities such as egg hunts and special rewards. We'll provide more details about this on March the 18th. Change appearance Transmog. Oh, my holy blue pineapple. We have added change appearance, aka Transmog, to the game. Hallelujah. Change your gear and weapon appearance with the same category of items at Gunnar's Blacksmith in Ravensthorpe for 50 silver. This piece was already exceptionally beautiful, but if there's anyone who could improve it, it's me, says Gunnar. Changed items will be marked with a star in the inventory. Thank you so much for that. New skills, Fearless Sleeper. When activated, the leap attack damage has a larger area of effect and can be done at any height. Batman, eat your heart out. Raven's Loot. Your Raven gathers loot from targets killed with ranged attacks. Nice. Loot food. Evor. Now has a higher chance of looting food from dead bodies. Yeah, just what I want. Salmonella. Close camera option. We added a close camera option to the game. Once toggled, it'll activate a closer camera during regular gameplay. The camera will zoom out during combat encounters. The option can be toggled in the gameplay menu. And for game improvements miscellaneous, there will now be more cats throughout England. The best kind of clutter. Foxes should no longer spawn inside London. London, not London. Anyways. Addressed an issue that downgraded Ubisoft Connect rewards, i.e. Spartan Bow, Moonlight Axe. Improved character physics behavior when running up the stairs. Clothes no longer go brrr. Small boats will now catch fire when throwing torches at them. Yeah, makes sense. Balancing addressed an issue that caused Scatty's blade perks to remain inactive when conditions are met, or an issue that caused the Boar Master's melee attack not to build up fire damage on the player, or an issue that caused Petra's arc perk to remain inactive above 90% hit point, or an issue that caused the Huntsman rune to be activated when conditions are not met, or an issue that allowed players to break the heavy runic attack of Kjot V with light attacks during the third phase. I probably butchered that word. That's okay. Also addressed an issue that prevented guaranteed assassinations from working and reduced damage dealt after acquiring the Shoulder Bash ability. Quests, world event, and side activities. Addressed an issue in the absence of Ildormen that prevented players from completing the quest when the brooch was already collected. Everyone liked that. Also, an issue in the absence of the Eldermen that prevented a cutscene from playing, or an issue in clues and riddles that prevented players from completing the quest as it does not validate after the ritual, or an issue in the demon odor at the tithe that prevented the NPC from spawning, or an issue in bleeding the leech that caused the NPC to remain stuck in a defeated state, or an issue in raising Earning Stone due to Galen not speaking, or an issue in a brother's keeper that prevented a cutscene from playing, or an issue in Glory Regained that prevented players from proceeding with the quest, or an issue in an island of the eels that prevented players from completing the quest as it was moved to completed quests, putting that thing back where it came from, or so help me. Addressed an issue that prevented players from pledging to any region on the Alliance map, or an issue in Pilgrimage to St. Albanus that prevented players from talking to the NPC, or the slight issue I had with catching my breath because I'm trying to read so fast, and an issue in the Lamb Chops World event where players could not complete the event if Merrick died, or an issue in a Wise Friend where Randvi would not appear outside the Longhouse, or an issue that prevented players from completing the Asgard Arc after completing Binding Fate, or an issue in the Pilgrimage to St. Albanes where Burston could get stuck, preventing players from completing the quest, or an issue in the Dreams that prevented players from completing the Drink the Potion to return to Asgard objective, or an issue in the Crushed Dreams World event that caused the wife to be dead. Well, for some people that won't really be an issue, but it's been addressed nonetheless. Also addressed an issue in Honor has two edges that prevented players from interacting with Faravid at the camp, or an issue in Degalus the Beautiful World event due to Degalus not leaving the water. Wonder if he's related to Legolas. Addressed an issue in the absence of Eldormen that prevented the objective marker from appearing, or an issue in Heavy is the head that caused Ivar to no longer move. Yes, he's boneless, but still. An issue in the Sword of St. George that prevented the quest from updating after killing the champion and not being acquired, or an issue that prevented the Cordelia boss fight from starting, or an issue that caused a Urvisiker wealth to disappear after completing Honor Has Two Edges, or an issue that prevented players from interacting with Idis after assigning the Jomsviking, or an issue in Reap What was sown that caused Sigurd to clap with one hand next to Uba, or an issue in Extended Family that allowed the boss to jump over the arena border and not being defeatable as a result, or an issue in Well Traveled that caused players to be stuck when interacting with the reflector, or an issue that caused players to sink to the bottom of the ocean when jumping from the longship without having learned the leap of faith. Altair knows the feels. Indeed, he does. Or an issue in the walls of the Temple Bro that prevented players from talking to Sigurd, an issue that caused the man-eating animal contract to be missing a quest objective, or an issue that results in Kajotvi not taking damage using the hidden blade, or an issue in an efficient cremation that prevented the world event from completing when the man was killed for the first time after burning the bodies. Brutal. I love it. Or an issue that caused the aim to snap away during the builder boss fight using keyboard and mouse, or an issue that prevented players from completing the partner's tale as the NPC is missing, or an issue in Glory Regained that prevented players from proceeding with the quest after reaching the regroup with Soma objective, or an issue in the road to Hamartia that caused Halfdan to not follow the player. He was only doing half his job. Or an issue that prevented players from pledging to snotting ham. Snotty ham. Okay, that's enough of that. Or ham, sure, as both options were grayed out. Damn it, complicated words. For a Frenchman like myself, addressed an issue that prevented players from collecting the Book of Knowledge in Oxenfordshire. Addressed an issue that prevented players from confirming the kill against Thor the Fishmonger. Or an issue that prevented the Order member Benesek of Bath from spawning. He was in the shower. That was cringy. Or an issue that caused legendary animals to spawn outside the playable area. An issue that caused Randvi to not cross the bridge exiting the settlement. It seems the wind calls her to the other side. Also addressed an issue that prevented players from interacting with one of the 3 keys needed for Jorvik Wealth Chest after planting explosive corpse on the body. Also addressed an issue that caused Suttinger to be missing weak points in Phase 2 of the fight. Addressed an issue in When the Stone Falls that prevented the quest from being completed if the player fast travels during the quest, or an issue that prevented players from completing Edmund's arrow as the NPC is missing, or an issue that caused a section of Asgard's intro to be missing. Graphics, audio, and animation addressed various graphics, lighting, texture issues, clipping issues, character and NPC animation issues, or an issue that allowed players to unequip a weapon mid-animation, causing animation issues, or an issue that caused an impact on character detail settings when world detail graphics settings were adjusted, or an issue that caused the game not to restart after resetting graphics mode, or an issue where guards wouldn't recheck already investigating hiding spots when Ivor whistles from them. River raids, oh boy. Addressed various river raid related UI HUD issues, addressed a placement issue with raid location descriptions using Arabic interface language, or an issue that prevented river raid's contents to be accessible after the Jomsviking Hall was built, or an issue that caused the objective to be missing after building the Jomsviking Hall, or an issue that prevented players from reviving Jomsviking with the mouse and keyboard. Vagnen will now randomly have dialogue during river raids. Lean back. Addressed an issue that prevented river barricades to trigger, or an issue that caused the river raid's completion on Vagnen's map to be inaccurate, or some instances of issues with masked behaviors in specific ship hiding spots, or an issue on the River D that resulted in the River Champion to be missing, or an issue that caused a Sword of St. George quest to be missing an objective, or an issue that sometimes prevented the end raid quick action from working, or an issue that caused the objective from a river to raid to be missing from the UI, or an issue that allowed rivers to have more river raid chests than keys. I've seen that. Or an issue that caused naval chains to not regenerate when the player returns to rivers. Or an issue that caused the character showcase not to update when assigning Yom Vikings to the crew. or an issue that allowed players to seemingly trigger a raid on the boat and once again on land when all Yom's Vikings are dead, or an issue that prevented players from using rations after completing all river raid quests, or an issue that caused Yom Vikings ranks up not to be displayed correctly, or an issue that sometimes prevented the river alert level to be displayed when returning to the long ship if the alert level increased, or an issue that caused Yom Vikings waiting to be hired to have a different rank in the hull than intended, an issue that would cause the map clue to not be marked as well has been addressed as collected on the river EXE map, or an issue that caused Yom Vikings to die while they're all currently being revived, or an issue that prevented the celebration screen to appear when completing a raid for the second time, or an issue that could see the player spawn in a river raid without their longship. Give the video a thumbs down and I'll make sure that you wake up and something else has despawned. Addressed an issue that resulted in a raid not to be completed upon gathering all cargoes from the Severn outpost, or an issue that prevented Yom's Viking to open the door in Irbistok River D after unlocking it to loot the chest, or an issue that caused the mast not to be lowered and all Yom's Vikings are dead, if they're all dead, or issues where the player could get stuck, or an issue that prevented players from progressing with river raids when bringing clues to Vegan and then reloading the first autosave, or addressed an issue that prevented players from returning to the settlement if any sensitive content option is applied while on any river. That's what you get for being a snowflake. Addressed an issue on the River D that caused icons for chests and cargoes to be missing from the compass. Gameplay, combat, and AI. Addressed various NPC behavior issues, or an issue that caused Ivor to continue spinning longer than intended when using the Dane Axe special attack, or addressed an issue that caused enemies to wake up right away when they're being hit with a second sleep dart while sleeping, or an issue that caused the hidden blade to be missing from Ivor. Not worthy. Addressed an issue that caused strange physics when throwing explosive pots, or an issue that resulted in disguise speed to be limited using keyboard input, or an issue that caused Ivor to moonwalk when mounting a horse that is approaching from behind the player, or an issue that allowed players to obtain Nodin's arc through save/load actions, or an issue that caused a player to still get blinded even though the flash missile was being thrown back to a zealot, or an issue that allowed players to swap weapons while performing a heavy attack, or an issue that caused archers to shoot arrows from strange angles, or an issue that caused issues, equipping weapons after blocking and dodging while using the battering ram, or an issue that caused NPCs to perform the same activity for longer than intended, an issue that caused guards to climb on burning roofs, or an issue that allowed unconscious NPCs to be inflammable, or an issue that caused the oil jars to explode when assassinations were performed nearby, or an issue that allowed players to chain hidden blade attacks several times unintentionally, and in the world addressed various issues where the players could get stuck, or an issue where players could get stuck or unable to move on a shelf inside St. Louina's church, addressed various object placement issues across the world, or an issue where a key would sometimes remain stuck in the air when destroying the hazard in Jotunheim, or an issue that allowed multiple settlement cosmetics to be applied simultaneously for one slot, or an issue that caused dead pigs to return to a standing position after fast traveling. User interface and HUD addressed several UI HUD issues and localization issues, and an issue that allowed for quick action wheels to be accessible during the beginning of the game. Stadia addressed an issue that prevented the photo mode cursor to be visible, and an issue that caused HUD elements to disappear in the world map to be unavailable when talking to Seawolf at night while he's in bed. Well, maybe he didn't want to be disturbed. System addressed an issue that prevented players from exiting the White Room when the game was still downloading, or an issue that caused issues switching input from mouse keyboard to gamepad, or an issue that prevented players from reaching 100% completion, or an issue that caused the back button to have multiple functions in the Japanese version of the game, or an issue that caused the way the Berserker to not be available in offline mode after being redeemed, or an issue that caused ULC content, not DLC, but apparently ULC, to not be available in game after purchasing it from the store. PC addressed an issue that prevented Disorder of Ancients Take My Hand, the Enemy of My Enemy, over Design 2 from unlocking. Also on PC, an issue with multi-monitor setups that could cause issues while in borderless mode. PC again addressed an issue that caused MSI voice commands to stop working. PS4, PS5 addressed an issue that caused the share play option to no longer be available. PS4, PS5 again addressed an issue that prevented players from uploading saves to the game cloud. Performance and stability. Improved performance and stability. Simple as that. And addressed an issue that could cause freezes when performing a dodge while holding an oil jar inside Bergred's crypt. And that is it for these bloody patch notes. Thank the Lord it's over. So as always, if you liked the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. It greatly helps support the channel with the algorithm and making me more relevant in the search results when people are looking shit up on the internet. If you didn't like the video, go ahead, give it a thumbs down, and as always, I'll just snap it off in your ass. And it's as simple as that. But if you want to subscribe to the channel, that would be greatly appreciated as always. But if not, thanks for stopping by anyways. Take care, and hopefully I'll see some of you in the next video. Bye for now.